Ladies and gentlemen, the American people made the demand. They yelled in their collective voice, "We want a relief package." And Congress, in their ever honorable fashion, just said to the American people, "We humbly oblige." And we stood tall and saluted the flag, and they passed the relief package to help Americans with important things like $10 million for Pakistani gender programs. I'm not kidding. This is page 1,494 of the 5,593 page spending bill. In it, they did include $900 billion in relief for the American people. In it, we get to see things like $500 million for Israel, I believe $700 million for Sudan, and $10 million for Pakistani gender programs. I'd like to give a round of applause to Congress for passing this. My friends, in this video, I would like to give a special bit of criticism to the Democrats, but also some Republicans. The Democrats overwhelmingly supported this bill. I think only 2 out of the entire Congress, 2 members of the House, said no. And in the Senate, I think every Democrat said yes. Republicans, I think, mustered up a decent handful of nays. I think like 40 or 50 in the House, and then 6 or so, and actually more than that. I think it was like total like 60. So people often ask me, Tim, why are you always ragging on Democrats? Well, let me tell you the way I described it. Democrats will say something like, "Let's burn down the House," and they'll light a match, they'll light a match. And then the Republicans will go, whoa, just the kitchen, just burn down the kitchen. And that's what we get. You see, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted something, and this is a perfect bit of hypocrisy. So I'm going to give special criticism to AOC and Josh Hawley, but I will also be fair and defend them. Just hear me out. AOC tweets, "This is why Congress needs time to actually read this package before voting on it. Members of Congress have not read this bill. It's over 5,000 pages, arrived at 2 p.m. today, and we are told to expect a vote on it in 2 hours. This isn't governance, it's hostage taking." You know what, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you are right. Snap back, clap back. You tell them. It's not right. It's hostage taking. Wait a minute. What's this? We got vote details here. Why, let's scroll down a good old NY14 and hold on a minute. I believe that's Ocasio-Cortez's name right there in the center of the screen with a yay next to it. AOC tweets about it. She voted for it. If you were really concerned that someone handed you a 5,500 page bill and said you're going to vote on it, I'd be like, no, it's called having a spine, but they don't have any. You know what, man? Let me tell you, my friends, I get contracts all the time. And I get tons of people saying, like, we'd love to do a deal with you. We're going to send you a standard contract to be totally normal. And I read through the whole thing and I say, no. And they're like, but this is normal. I don't care. You don't get to have this leverage over me. You want to send me a contract. I once got a contract from a big agency, one of the biggest, this is years ago. And it was like this thick of pages. And they were like, don't worry, it's totally standard. Just sign these 5 pages and we're good to go. And then you'll be repped by one of the biggest agencies in the world and you will be a star, baby. And I said, yeah, that's great. How am I supposed to afford a lawyer to go through all this? And they were like, oh, don't worry about it. Just sign it. And I said, okay. And I threw it in the trash. I walked away from one of the big talent agencies because I said, you give me something legitimate. You give me something I can read and sign off on. Otherwise, I'll throw it in the garbage. I had another really big agency recently in the past year. We're going to make you the biggest podcast, baby. And they sent me a contract and I said, no. If you expect me to waste my time reading over your trash because you can't give me a legitimate bill, no. If they took, it's $900 billion for COVID relief. It's 2.3 total with 4 and 8 and a bunch of other nonsense. If they took a bill, 1 page, $900 billion appropriated to the American people, $2,700 per person, then, and that would be that'd be like babies too. Done. And then people would have a ton of money and they'd have money to go spend. Instead, they give us this relief package with a bunch of other nonsense in it. To be fair, the $900 billion is for COVID relief. So there's like, small business grants and PPP, but there's also like, the Smithsonian and other places are going to be getting a big chunk of money. The bigger issue is not just the COVID stimulus package, which I do think there's a problem with. It's the total $2.3 trillion government spending bill. Now, you see, Twitter is trying to stop this narrative. On Twitter right now, what's happening? Politics. Last night, they say, U.S. Congress passes $900 billion COVID-19 stimulus package as part of a $2.3 trillion government spending bill. What they're trying to say to everybody is all of these things you're seeing about like gender programs, that's not the COVID relief package. That's the omnibus spending bill. COVID relief was just attached to it. As Glenn Greenwald points out, as Yair Rosenberg points out, $500 million to Israel is not technically part of the COVID bill, but a separate bill passed with foreign aid. Still at the same time, Congress said they can't afford more than $600 in a one-time payment to Americans. And don't forget, I just ragged on AOC, but I'm not leaving Josh Hawley hanging. Josh Hawley says, I will vote yes on COVID relief for one reason and one reason only. It contains direct assistance to working families. That assistance is not nearly enough, fraction of what it should be, but it is something. And for millions of working families, it's help desperately needed. That is the spinelessness of our political class. AOC and Josh Hawley can be like, oh, harumph, I say on Twitter, the bill is bad, but I'll support it. That just means the next time this garbage happens, they'll support it. It's not just about the waste of money. You want to give $500 million to Israel. I totally get it. But I'm sorry, my man. As the saying goes when you're on an airplane, you must secure your own oxygen mask before securing the mask of those sitting next to you. And as our country is falling into despair and economic collapse and starvation and panic and fear, I cannot fathom who in their right mind would be like, well, what is it? We got the federal debt to GDP ratio at 128%. The deficit is skyrocketing. 35% of all U.S. dollars in circulation were printed this year. I got an idea. Let's send millions of dollars to Pakistan for gender programs. Round of applause, Congress. Round of applause, Josh Hawley and AOC. You can come out against it, and I tell you this, I respect you for it. Because all these other people who voted yes on this, yeah, those are the true spineless individuals who are just going to collect a paycheck. Sure, I don't care what's in it. Yes, I didn't read it. Doesn't matter to me. At least Josh Hawley did speak up against it. At least AOC did speak up against it. And AOC was specifically referring to this. The COVID-19 stimulus bill would make illegal streaming a felony. Wait, what? You see what they do here? You see how they do this? Twitter is trying to tell us. Twitter is trying to say, because they're manipulators, just trying to keep you happy, ignoring the corruption and the extraction of the working class in this country. They want you to ignore what's really going on. They attached the COVID relief bill to the omnibus spending package so they could jam garbage like Pakistani gender programs in it, and you wouldn't say anything about it. And people like Josh Hawley and AOC would be like, but I have to say yes to it. Otherwise, the working families won't get $600. I get it. Working families need that $600. But how could it be that we are watching the government club us over the back of the head for a year so that we can't work? They reach into our wallets, they rip the cash out of it, they shuffle through the money, take $100, give $80 to some random person, say, here's 20 for you. And we're supposed to say, thank you so much for giving me $20. The Democratic governors destroyed the economy. And now they're extracting the value of the working class. This money that is being printed, it is diluting the value. There is the GDP is, like I said, the federal debt to GDP ratio, 128%. The working class are losing property. They're losing access. They're losing their jobs. They're losing buying power. And at the same time, the government is saying, while America is on its knees begging, we're going to take your money and give it to somebody else. I'm all actually for foreign aid, 100%. I am not a staunch America only, America first, or anything like that. I'm actually moderately internationalist, to nationalist, not a staunch nationalist. But I recognize the sheer absurdity of being in an airplane as the cabin depressurizes, everyone's gasping for air, and you're like, quick, let's put the oxygen mask on that person. No, you put it on yourself to make sure you can breathe and don't pass out, and then start helping others. Because if everybody just started looking around at someone else, they'd all pass out. Talk about the sheer absurdity of a pathetic and feckless political class. Now, AOC says this isn't governance, it's hostage taking. She's right. She is. Because what's happening is the American people in their desperation are begging, please, anything. Trump in October said, get me a bill, $1,200 stimulus, and I will sign it. and they didn't do it. And I blame Republicans as much as I blame Democrats. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, Josh Hawley comes out like, this is a really bad bill. He says, here comes a list of corporate and government giveaways. Remember, negotiator said we couldn't give working people a single penny more. Posturing. I don't believe Josh Hawley. I'm sorry. I don't care. I normally like the guy because I've seen him fight against big tech censorship. But when he comes out and says, this is so bad for the working people, I'm so angry as I'm voting yes on this. Could you imagine if our politicians had spines? Man, that's why I would never want to be in government, never want to be. But I'll tell you this. If it were me and I was sitting in that chamber and they're like, how many vote yes on this? I'd be like, can I vote no twice? Can I like crumple up the paper and like slam it on the ground and say harumph and like shake my fist? Because no isn't enough. Let me give a shout out to some special people. Now, when we look over at GovTrack Congress, you can see there were 6 Republicans in the Senate who voted against this. But every Democrat and the independents voted yes on this. When you look at the House, this is actually really interesting. Republicans, we have 50 Republicans voting no, 17 Republicans not voting at all. Only 2 Democrats voted no. 1 Libertarian voted no, and that's what's his face? I can't remember the guy's name. Whatever. But I'm gonna give a shout out right here. Notable votes. There were 2 Democrats who said no to this, and they have my respect. Tulsi Gabbard, of course, said no. And as most of you know, I'm a big fan of Tulsi Gabbard, especially in these past couple of weeks. She has really been hitting it out of the park. I'm not going to pretend that she's perfect. I'm also a big fan of Rand Paul. I'm not going to pretend he's perfect either, but some of my favorite politicians. But now, this one may surprise many of you. Rashida Tlaib voted no. And I don't know why she voted no. And that could be, it could be because she wanted more money and stimulus or something, but I don't care. Voting no on this was the right thing. Look, earlier in the year, I said vote yes on the stimulus package, and we'll come back and maybe look at it and realize we made many mistakes. But that was a desperate time, very desperate. We were watching these videos. We were all worried, and we all agreed to work together, slow the spread, 15 days, 21 days, 45 days. Now what? You see, early on, it made sense because we all agreed if we lock everything down for a little bit, we'll slow the spread to stop the hospitals from being overwhelmed. That was the point. We needed to make sure the spread of this virus was limited. And then they locked us down forever. And now they're telling us it's going to be 2 years. Now they're telling us there's a new strain. Now they're telling us we're not sure if the vaccine will be effective. Now they're saying that the new strain spreads in children. Oh no, schools. It's never going to end. And so now we have the bloat bill with a bunch of garbage just jammed up into it. And at a time when they told us we can only afford to give you $600, they're giving half a billion to Israel in foreign aid. They're giving $10 million to Pakistani gender programs. And my favorite part of this bill, this was Ford Fisher tweeted this out. In the bill, I can't remember which page it's on, they are going to legalize depictions of Smokey the Bear smoking, I guess. I guess it's illegal. So apparently they sell art of Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires. Smokey the Bear smoking, but you can't buy them in the U.S. Congratulations. That's what your politicians got you. You know what happens? When the American people were begging, they looked around and said, all right, I'll give you some of your own money back, but I get to have depictions of Smokey the Bear smoking. And we're like, fine, whatever. I'm going to give a bunch of your money to that guy over there. Fine, whatever. All right, I'll give another bunch of your money to that guy over there for gender programs. And they were like, please, fine. What people don't realize about all this is that the $2.3 trillion that's being spent, making the deficit, expanding the deficit, expanding the debt, is your money. You. They took it from you. They're betting against you. They're borrowing against your income tax and your labor. And then they're throwing you back a tiny piece and saying, have at it. And you're supposed to be happy. You know what I want to see? I want to see more Rand Pauls. I want to see more of these. Look at this. I tell you, this is exactly why I rag on Democrats all the time. Look at the list of people who voted no, just right here. You do have a bunch of other Republicans who voted no or abstained. But we've got people like Justin Amash. That's his name. That's the libertarian guy. He voted no. Bravo, good sir. Never been the biggest fan of him or Rashida Tlaib, but I respect them tremendously, and I want to give them a legitimate round of applause for saying no to this. I look at Jim Jordan. I look at Thomas Massey. These are the people that I often say, yeah, they're doing all right. They're okay, guys. I don't know who many of these people are, but you can see the usual players are the ones saying no. Of course, my good friend Rand Paul. I'm not actually friends with Rand Paul. I'm just saying I'm a big fan of Rand Paul. I've never actually met the guy, but this is exactly it. People like Rand Paul standing up and saying no, just like his dad. Good old Ron Paul, Dr. No. Ron Paul, famous for just saying no to all of this government spending and trash. I'll tell you what they're doing to us right now. In our most desperate time, all of these people are jamming in nonsense. Look at this. The Verge, sweeping new copyright measures poised to pass in spending bill. Twitter will tell you in their stupid little viral trend thing that it's not the COVID relief bill. That's something different. It's just they voted on it at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Would this have passed? Would gender program money passed if these Democrats and Republicans weren't being screamed at by people about how they needed stimulus package? Josh Hawley said that the only reason he's voting for this is because it provides direct assistance to working families. If it wasn't for the $600, would he have said no? He should have said no either way, but he didn't. He supported it. And Rand Paul lit up the floor. Fox News reports. Senator Rand Paul addressed the Senate Monday afternoon as his colleagues prepared to vote for a $900 billion coronavirus relief package and told his fellow Republicans who backed the stimulus they are no better than Democrats they criticize who align themselves with socialism. To so-called conservatives who are quick to identify the socialism of Democrats, if you vote for this spending monstrosity, you are no better. The House passed the relief package, and lawmakers tacked on a $1.4 trillion catch-all spending bill prior to the Christmas holiday. Oh, it's so good. They did it at a time when they thought no one would be paying attention. They did it at a time when people were most desperate. And instead of coming out and saying, we are taking $1.4 trillion of your money to give to who knows what and who knows where, they said, we are voting to give you $600. As if that would be enough to do anything for the average working family, but sure. They say, quote, Rand Paul, I believe, if free money was the answer, if money really did grow on trees, why not give more free money? Why not give it out all the time? Why stop at $600 a person? Why not $1,000? Why not $2,000? Maybe these new free money Republicans should join the Everybody Gets a Guaranteed Income caucus. Why not $20,000 a year for everybody? Why not $30,000? If we can print money with impunity, why not do it? It's actually quite simple. If you are printing money but producing nothing of value, then the money becomes worthless. Haha. It's actually a really, really simple equation. Right now, people aren't working. They're not producing. They're not making stuff and they're not servicing. So you're like, waiters and waitresses and stuff like that, the service industry. So nobody's exchanging money, and the money you do get is good for only some things, basic necessities and paying your rent and maybe things like that. If you can't do all that much with it, well, why would somebody want it? So I think about internationally, the demand for US dollars. I guess you can still buy oil with it, so it still has its value. But my friends, what we are seeing is the hostage situation, as AOC said, and rightly so, of the extraction of the wealth of the working class, what limited wealth they actually have, to the elites, to foreign interests, to rich people in foreign countries. And they're doing it while you are on your knees begging for help. And in your most desperate, they have taken it from you to give to somebody else. Rand Paul is right. He absolutely is. And my friends, I pulled up the gender programs thing because people are pointing it out. You can just open up the bill and press Control Find and type in things that are absurd or ridiculous, and you will find the absurd and the ridiculous. Does it make sense for $10 million of this to be going to gender programs in Pakistan when the American people are seeing a third or more of their businesses completely destroyed? No. The answer is no, it doesn't. And I'm sorry, even giving money to Israel and other countries in foreign aid and defense spending doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. It doesn't. But that's what you will continue to get so long as you have politicians who will just vote yes. So let me make one thing clear. I want to be very, very, very clear here. Listen, Ted Cruz said no. Mike Lee, Ron Johnson, Marsha Blackburn, Rick Scott, and Rand Paul all said no on this in the Senate on this bill. Josh Hawley, he caved. And so long as you have politicians who are more interested in collecting a paycheck All these people who voted yes, they're phoning it in. They don't care. They're like, what's the bill? I don't know. I'm not going to read it. Whatever. Yay. Think about how insane that is. Think about if you lived in a house and everybody pooled their money to pay rent. And then one day, one of the roommates was like, I propose that I get to take this money and go to Big John's Pizza and have a pizza party for myself. And then it's like, all in favor? And then the other roommates are like, yeah, fine, whatever. And he's like, great. And then you're like, dude, no, what are you doing with my money? It's like, here's $100, be happy. It's like, bro, I gave you $200. That's what we're getting. And then eventually you get evicted. Eventually you can't pay your bills. I'm impressed. I really, really am. The fact that this is the system we have, where 92-6 they vote support this in the Senate, and 359-53 in the House they vote to support it. Nobody knows what's in it other than weird nonsense garbage. But so long as they can pretend that they were forced to do it, then they're safe. And that, my friends, is Josh Hawley. And so long as they can pretend it wasn't their fault, they just didn't have time, it's not her fault, then AOC can vote yes. She can complain about it and then vote yes. Hawley can complain about it and then vote yes. I guess complaining about it's better than just saying nothing and voting yes. But you know what we need? We need more Rand Pauls. We need more Tulsi Gabbards. And yes, even now, Justin Amash and Rashid Tlaib. We need politicians who are going to be like, if I can't read it, I won't support it. But bravo, America. I hope you're happy getting back $600 of the money they took from you. And that won't change because this is the system we have. Our politicians don't care at all. We've got a handful that are saying, I reject, I refuse. Most of them just don't care. They phone it in. They show up and they're like, whatever, just do whatever you want. I don't care. And that's what we vote for. Well, right now, trending on Twitter, not a big trend, though, is vote them all out. Would be nice. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.